This is Arkies in the Beltway, your look at national politics and the Arkansans influencing the discussions. I'm Alex Thomas, Washington correspondent for the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, reporting from the nation's capital. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of November 24th, 2024. Members of Congress are away from Capitol Hill this week for the Thanksgiving holiday. When they return, it will be a 3-week sprint to complete work for the 118th Congress. A top item of concern, funding the government past December 20th and avoiding a government shutdown. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer stressing the importance of funding the government in a floor speech last Thursday.
Letting the government shut down just before Christmas would be asinine, plain and simple, and nobody wants that to happen. Well, there may be a few in the other chamber who do, but they're a distinct minority.
House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson suggesting extending funding into early next year, giving the new Republican-led Congress and President-elect Donald Trump a say on government spending. Representative Steve Womack of Rogers is a senior House appropriator. He's not a fan of that potential move.
I would like to think that the president-elect would recognize that being shackled by the unfinished business of the previous Congress is something that he doesn't want to be, connected to and would like to have it out of the way. But that's not the vibes I'm getting.
Womack did support a short-term continuing resolution back in September, saying these measures are better than allowing a government shutdown. Representative Bruce Westerman of Hot Springs, the only Arkansan who opposed this arrangement. Womack is keeping his eyes on another end-of-year item, the White House's disaster relief proposal. The Biden administration asking for $98.4 billion, addressing recovery efforts related to recent natural disasters. This includes Hurricanes Helene and Milton. The Senate Appropriations Committee last Wednesday hosted agency heads to discuss the request. Womack says Congress needs to take this matter seriously, referencing his constituents in northwest Arkansas. Violent storms swept across Womack's district in late May, leaving catastrophic damage.
You can see the skyline has changed, and it'll be a long time before that is restored. But when people are hurting, you don't need to get bogged down in a lot of political back and forth.
$20 billion of the White House's proposal involves transportation and housing issues. Womack's appropriations work involves overseeing spending related to the Department of Transportation as well as the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Another topic of concern for Congress before year's end, what to do about the Farm Bill. The multi-year legislative package authorizes nutrition programs, including SNAP. It also authorizes relief for producers amid periods of substantial revenue loss. Lawmakers allowed the 2018 statute to expire at the end of September. They have been adamant, however, about a December 31st deadline to fund programs. The House Agriculture Committee approved its version of the Farm Bill in May, but the full chamber has yet to consider that legislation. Michigan Democrat Debbie Stabenow, the chair of the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee, released legislative text of a long-term farm bill last Monday. Senator John Boozman of Rogers is the committee's top Republican. He says he was disappointed in Stabenow's decision to publish her bill, given little time left on the legislative calendar.
We've been working on this for a year and a half, haven't seen text. Really didn't ever see text until we essentially read about it online. And so it just really wasn't a meaningful approach.
Republicans and Democrats have struggled to reach a compromise on nutrition spending and conservation funding, but both sides agree on the importance of passing a new farm bill. Producers continue to deal with rising input costs as well as declining farm incomes. The Department of Agriculture in early September projected a 4.4% decline in farm incomes between 2023 and this year. Andrew Graumeyer with the Agricultural Council of Arkansas says Congress needs to take immediate action on passing a new farm bill.
They're entering the period in which they're starting to make plans for the coming crop year, and they've been suffering losses for the last 2 crop years. So they're positioned in a very dire way going forward without any safety net whatsoever.
Boozman says Congress should approve a one-year extension to protect producers, as well as ad hoc legislation providing financial relief for recent crop years.
What we've got to do is come up with a plan that essentially kind of backfills a farm bill to take care of them right now for this last year.
Boozman and Stabenow have discussed legislative options to help producers in the short term. Stabenow telling reporters she wants Boozman and Senate Republicans to put forward their own legislative text in hopes of finalizing a bipartisan farm bill.
If that doesn't happen, then we'll move forward on a one-year extension. But in my judgment, there's no reason not to get a five-year farm bill done and give farmers the certainty of a five-year farm bill, as well as help they need now.
A House coalition has introduced legislation to provide certain producers with financial assistance. Representative Rick Crawford of Jonesboro among the sponsors of this bill, titled the Farm Act. If Congress does not approve a new long-term farm bill before the holidays, Senator Boozman will have significant influence on the next package. Boozman set to become chair of the Senate Agriculture Committee in January as Republicans take control of Congress's upper chamber. Arkansas Farm Bureau President Dan Wright says his organization is thrilled about Boozman being the next committee chair.
He's always been one that has reached out to us when the tough questions come across. Anything to do with ag, he's always on top of calling our offices, our experts, our economists, calling me personally sometimes, just to see where we stand on it.
Boozman has traveled across the country during this Congress, seeking input on what to include in the next farm bill. North Dakota Republican John Hoeven hosted Boozman and Minnesota Democrats Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith back in August. That event was focused on agriculture research. Hoeven says Boozman is the right person to lead the committee.
Ag policy is pretty bipartisan, and he's respected across the aisle. Yeah, we just couldn't have a better guy. He's tops.
Stabenow will not be the committee's ranking member in 2025, as she will retire from the Senate at the end of this Congress. Klobuchar is expected to move into that top Democrat spot. Another Arkansan looking to become a committee chair, Senator Tom Cotton of Little Rock. We mentioned on last week's episode that Cotton wants the Senate Intelligence Committee chair job, with the committee's top Republican, Marco Rubio of Florida, nominated as the next Secretary of State. The committee has oversight over the United States intelligence agencies. Cotton explains to the Democrat-Gazette his interest in becoming the next committee chair.
The whole point of intelligence is to make sure that our leaders have the information they need to head off conflicts in advance and to advance the nation's interest, sometimes in silent fashion. So it all happens behind closed doors, but it is a lot of work. And I think it's really vital for the people of our state and our nation that those committees fulfill what is a very robust and serious oversight responsibility.
The next Congress will be a big one for Cotton. Senate Republicans picked Arkansas's junior senator to serve as conference chair, the number 3 position within the Senate GOP. Cotton defeated Iowa Senator Joni Ernst in a closed-door election earlier this month. A quick programming note before we go. Arkies in the Beltway will take next week off for Thanksgiving. We'll be back on December 8th to discuss Congress's return to Capitol Hill. But for now, that will do it for this edition of Arkies in the Beltway for the week of November 24th, 2024. You can stay up to date with all news involving Arkansas at arkansasonline.com. You can get in touch with me on social media. My handle across most platforms is at Alex House Thomas, and you can also find me on Blue Sky. Special thanks as always to the team down in Little Rock. I'm Alex Thomas, and this has been Arkies in the Beltway. Thanks for listening.